Naresh Marachavarapu,
Here.
Jason Kaufman,
Here.
Denise Malone,
Here.
Jamie Brown, Terrence Bailey, John Paul O'Connor,
Here.
Alex Hansen,
Here.
Jessica Keller, Kenny Wilson,
Here.
Gary Speck,
Michael Jimbroni's here as an alternate for Gary.
Brian Davis,
Kevin Fisher here is the alternate for Brian Davis.
Yash Nagel,
Ira Dangleben, alternate for Yash Nagel.
Aaron Hoffman, Joyce Kai, Lorraine Cargill,
Vicky Katanis for Lorraine Cargo.
Thomas Hernandez, Kim Delaney, Kim Glass Castro, Christopher Marsh,
Here.
Jonathan Rainsvold,
Here.
Cesar Martinez,
Christine Francisco on behalf of Cesar.
Natalie Crowley,
Here.
Mo Alturk,
Here.
Wesley Ledesma. We have a quorum, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Let's move on. Do we have any staff? Do we have any other modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the following members are requesting TAC permission to participate remotely. Joyce Kai, Wesley Ledesma, Chang Jen Lin, and Joanne Scaria.
Yeah, thank you. TAC members, do we have any objections? to
I'm
allowing
sorry,
us?
but Joanne Scaria does not need to be attending because I don't know if she might be aware. Is she with the City of Palm Beach Gardens? Oh, yeah, she's not requesting to join. I think she's probably just attending.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we have any objections to allowing this member to participate remotely? Seeing none, this member is approved to participate remotely. Ruth, if you please note her attendance in the minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 1C. We have a motion to approve minutes for October 4th, and I believe Denise has a comment on that. Go ahead, Denise.
Yes, I would just like the minutes to reflect that I did participate remotely and was approved to do so last meeting. Thank you.
Very good. Do we have, and staff confirmed that. Do we have any other comments? Or, very good. Do I have then a motion to approve with the change to update the attendance of Denise?
Motion to approve with Denise in attendance.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have first and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Going now to item to approve minutes. We finished this. We go to item 1D, general public comments and public comments on agenda items. Instructions on how to provide public comments are included in the agenda. Staff, do you have any comments by the public?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Comments by the chair, I don't have any. Now we move on. At this time, I want to invite any TAC members to provide comments on items not already on the agenda. For members participating remotely, please utilize the raise hand feature in the Zoom platform, and then remember to unmute yourself when you are recognized. Do I have any comments? Okay, go ahead, Ruth.
Chang Jen, would you like to make a comment? Okay, he has his hand raised, but he's not speaking. You can go ahead.
Oh,
I had a comment too.
We have, Yeah. Did you want to see?
I
Okay.
don't know if we've passed it, but is there opportunity for members of the committee to make comments
Yes,
under comments?
Jim, yeah.
I don't know, if, it's, I guess, during some time of the meeting, I just want to acknowledge the passing of Clinton Forbes with Palm Tran. To me, just, it's such a loss from a transportation perspective in our county. And I think most of us around the table had the opportunity to engage with Mr. Forbes at one point or another. I know that his death has deeply affected the agency and the county, and I just wanted to express our sincere, heartfelt thoughts on the loss to not only to transportation in the county, but specifically to all of those working at Palm Tran in the county.
Thank you, Natalie. Absolutely. Clinton was a great leader in our community and the transportation leader and visionary. His loss was felt big time. I was actually at the funeral services, and the turnout was tremendous. And the speakers spoke a lot about his life, his achievements, and it's a great loss for all of us. Thank you for bringing this up. Let's move on. Vicky, go ahead, please.
I'd just like to announce that the tri-rail schedule is going to change. I believe it's on December 11th, and there will be new schedules on the platforms this week. It won't be a significant change in times, but there will be an adjustment, and that's in anticipation of tri-rail going into downtown Miami.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
Just briefly to echo the sentiment with respect to Mr. Forbes' tremendous loss. And also wanted to say that it's been such a nice pleasure to be here the last few months, but Brian Davis is coming back this month. So it's been nice having used to work at the TPA to be back here. So it's been a pleasure, but Brian will be back for the meetings next year. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jamie?
There's, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to thank Natalie for bringing that up. I was actually going to bring that up. And apologize for being late. Our commission meeting went to 11 o'clock last night, so. Sorry, yeah, just 11. I know. Sorry, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on, now we'll have the TAC liaison report. Nathan?
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy holidays. Pleased to have you all here again for the last meeting of 2023. Want to start off with a staff announcement. So we're really pleased to introduce to you Margie Tamblin, who is our new lead planner on the multimodal team, sitting right here behind me. So we're very excited to have her as a member of the team and look forward to having her engage in some of our exciting activities here around TPA. I'm gonna take a bit of a sidebar to talk about item number 2, because this is our technical advisory committee and I am your LRTP coordinator. So I'm gonna go through this in a little bit more detail than you see in the liaison report. So we're continuing to encourage involvement in the LRTP. That involves, folks submitting their input on our questionnaire and survey and trying to provide their engagement from a public perspective. But one of the most exciting and important parts of this process is starting to work on the projects. We had an initial call for projects response that was due in early November. From that, we received over 540 responses from 12 agencies. Some of you haven't responded yet. We've made the decision to extend that call for projects to December 15th. So if you have submitted and you want to submit more, please feel the freedom to do so. If you have not submitted, I would highly encourage you to do so. The reason I want to spend an extra minute talking about this is because we've also been engaged in conversations about some upcoming discretionary grant funding opportunities through the federal government. And it's important to understand that projects that are not in the LRTP, it is more difficult for you to receive those discretionary grants. So if you have not submitted projects to us through that call for projects, or if you're intending to submit on discretionary programs next year, I would highly encourage you to reach out and contact us to let us know of those intended plans. If it's not in the 2045 plan, this is just to let you all know, and I'll follow up by email. We're going to bring the 2045 plan back to include locally funded projects. So if you have projects you want to submit next year, please notify us so we can get those into that plan, ideally with local funding sources. So it shows that you have some demonstrated commitment to delivering those projects if you're going to request that federal funding. And I will close that item out there. Next item, Boca Raton Complete Streets Policy. We're incredibly excited to see that they've adopted a Complete Streets Policy, adopted on November 28th. So you can find more details about that. TPA had the opportunity and the privilege to review that. So we're really excited to see them adopt that policy. Next. We also want to highlight the Vision Zero for Youth U.S. Leadership Academy. Applications are due December 16th. If you want more details, please check out that site. FDOT Shared Use Non-Motorized or Sun Trail Program solicitations received through December 20th. So please check out that website if you're interested in that program. We're also in the middle of our TPA grant pre-application meetings for the TA Transportation Alternatives Program. Applications are due early next year, February 16th. Please schedule your pre-application meetings if you have not done so already and you're interested in that funding opportunity. The 2024 Safe Street Summit is a really exciting opportunity to hear more about what's going on in the Tri-County region. That'll be February 29th, which is going to be the day with all the sessions and learning opportunities. And then March 1st will be the opportunity to go out and see things on the street. It'll be hosted in Miami at the Intercontinental Miami. You can check out the website for more details on that. They are also looking for nominations for the Champion Awards. So if you know of a project or a person here in the region that you want to nominate, please do so. US DOT Grant Navigator, just a reminder, continually as federal government is pushing out more details, check out the DOT Navigator. They have really great resources and webinars, so certainly want to check that out. We also wanted to highlight for you another grant opportunity, the Road to Zero Community Traffic Safety Grants. Applications for that is due in February. And you can check out more details on the website. Two final highlights. We wanted to encourage everybody who's not already subscribed to our newsletter, please do sign up. We push a lot of information out to our committees and board and all of our interested parties. So that's a great opportunity to stay attuned for what we're doing here at TPA. And the next TPA governing board meeting for everybody is December 14th, last meeting of the year. 9 a.m. So please add that to your calendars if you're available to attend. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Nathan, and welcome on board, new planner. Moving on, do we have any comments from the public on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
How about TAC members? Do you have any comments or questions for Nathan? Good, let's move on then. All right, action items. First item is motion to elect officers for the 2024 calendar year. Pursuant to section 43B of the TPA's operating procedures, the officers shall be elected annually at the last regularly scheduled meeting of the calendar year. The newly elected officers shall take office at the first regularly scheduled meeting of the following calendar year. With this, I will first start with that I would like to open the floor to nominate for a chair of this committee. I am currently the chair and I wish to continue this role if I get your support. With this, I'm asking if there is any nomination for the chair at this point.
I nominate Natalie Crowley for chair.
Very good, Natalie. Natalie would be good with that.
I would accept.
Very good. Any other nominations? Very good. With this, I believe we need to go with the roll call and then we'll continue, proceed to the vice chair. Please.
Jim Bell,
Natalie.
Naresh Machravarapu,
Mo.
Amanda Radigan,
Natalie.
Jason Kaufman,
Natalie.
Denise Malone,
Natalie.
Jamie Brown,
Mo,
Terrence Bailey,
Natalie.
John Paul O'Connor,
Natalie.
Alex Hansen,
Natalie.
Kenny Wilson.
Natalie.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Natalie.
Um, Gary Specs alternate, Brian Davis,
Kevin Fisher as the alternate, Mo.
Yash Nagel,
Ira Engelman as the alternate, Natalie.
Aaron Hoffman, Joyce Kai,
Natalie.
Lorraine Cargill,
Vicky Katanis for Lorraine Cargill and Natalie.
Kim Delaney, Kim Glass Castro,
Natalie.
Christopher Marsh,
Mo.
Jonathan Rainsvold,
Mo.
Cesar Martinez. Oh, sorry. Wesley Ledesma. Wesley Ledesma. Hold one moment. We have some people online that are not responding. Natalie Crowley,
I'm able to vote for myself. Yeah.
that's true, right?
Yeah.
And Mo Alturk.
Mo. I think it's clear.
Natalie Crowley wins 14-7.
Thank you. Congratulations, Natalie.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to vice chair. Do we have any nominations for the vice chair?
I'll nominate Denise Malone.
So I did not hear it.
But sure, I'll accept.
Sure. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Very good. Do we have any other nominations? Vicky, do you have your card up?
If she's willing and amenable, I'd like to nominate Kim Glass Castro. I know she has a long history of planning in the county and also at the city level, and I think she'd be a good vice chair.
Thank you for thinking of me, but actually I'll defer to Denise and support her.
No more nominations? Very good. I think that's it. Thank you. Congratulations. We'll move on to the next item. Are there any public comments on this item? Ruth?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
We are moving on. Now we have the chair and we have the vice chair,
Okay.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Congrats to both of them, and let's move on to the next. No, I want to ask now if there are any public comments on this item.
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. How about the committee members? Any comments? Very good. Sorry? I think on the same item that we just voted on. Yeah. And then now I need a motion to approve. No, this is not necessary. Now we move on to item 2B. Motion to recommend adoption of the adjusted urban area boundary update. I think Nathan will start and we'll
I'm
have
sorry.
DOT give a presentation.
Chairman, did we make a motion to approve the elected officers?
Oh, I thought that we already, okay, we need a motion since
So
Okay.
moved.
I need a motion with, okay, we have a motion second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections, say nay. Very good. Motion carries unanimously. So we go now to item 2B. Nathan?
Good morning. I wanted to make a quick, brief introduction because this item's going to be presented by FDOT. But we're here today to talk about the 2020 urban boundary. So every 10 years, the census is completed. And this is the first part of a two-part process that we're going to look at from a regional perspective. So we're going to talk today about the urban area boundary. There will be an item upcoming next year where we'll talk about functional classification of roadways. So the changes related to the growth in our region. So I'm going to invite Raj from the FDOT team to come up and present this item to you.
Thank you, George. Good morning, Chair and the committee members. My name is Raj Shamugam. He picked up my name very well. To make it easy, anybody want to call me Raj, I'll be fine. Today, I'd like to present to you the urban area boundary efforts that we've been going through. This is something that happens every 10 years. When we do the census and after the census, we've been asked to look at the urban area boundary. We do have an urban area boundary, which is different from the planning boundary. I don't want it to be confused. That urban area boundary is primarily because of for the transportation purposes. So the presentation that I have, if I can figure out how to work this. Yep, it works. Divided into three groups. The first group, we're going to let you know, what we have done thus far, where we are at right now. Then go through giving you some guidance on the FHWA smoothing criteria that we've been given when we do the smoothing, how it should be done. Then finally show you what we have done as far as a draft smoothing so that we can all come to an agreement and we can send it up to central office at FDOT and the FHWA. Now, I want to point a fact here that FHWA makes the final call on this. FDOT is coordinating this effort with the MPOs, TPOs, TPAs, and the local municipalities so that we can come up with a smooth boundary that's going to be acceptable by the Federal Highway Administration. So, you've probably seen the census data. It happens every 10 years. A lot of the people who worked on this urban boundary function before, they won't be here the next 10 years. Fortunately, we have our consultant, Caltran Engineering. We have two people from the Caltran Engineering who were here at 2010 when we did the urban area boundary and the functional classification. Although my title of this presentation called Urban Area Boundary and Functional Classification, I'm going to purely touch on the urban area boundary because functional area classification, functional classification comes later on. And it also helps if we were to designate the urban area boundary first, it helps to designate the functional classification of the roadways. If you want to know more about the census data, you can see there's a website, census.gov, and you can get a lot of information, data starting from 1910 all the way up to now. So the way the FHWA looked at, or the Census Bureau looked at the urban area this time is somewhat different from how it was done in 2010. You can see in 2010, 2,500 persons within a square mile was considered an urban area. It's changed this time around. It's 5,000 persons per square mile and 2,000 housing units. Obviously, when you do that, the urban area boundary got shrunk a little bit, but you will see not much, just very slightly. They used the census block instead of the census tract. So that also makes a difference in how they designated the census area. FHW have given us some guidance on, timeline. They have given us about 12 months to go through this process. It's not cast in stone. It's about a 12-month guidance for us to get this done, so that we'll be in good shape to move forward with the meeting the functional classification needs. So in this slide, you see both the census urban area boundary designation task as well as the functional classification. I'm primarily going to stick to the census area boundary task. We are currently at where you see there's an star or an asterisk in the middle of that timeline. We're in the process of coordinating with the local agencies, and it will be sent out to the central office and FHWA for their approval. There's going to be an overlap between the functional classification as well as the census urban area boundary. That will be sometime at the beginning of next year. But we are hoping to finish the urban area boundary designation by early next year. By March of next year, we want to get that finished up. And this slide shows the timeline just only for the census area boundary designation. And you see most of the functions are completed. And we are at a point where you see this asterisk at December 2023 is where we are right now, coordinating with the agencies, MPOs, TPOs, TPAs, and the local municipalities. And hopefully we can get a plan or recommendation to the central office and FHWA so that it would not be rejected, would not come back to us saying, no, these areas cannot be included. We think we have done a fairly good job, because we have two people who worked on it 10 years ago. Besides Tina McKinney, she was an FDOT employee last time around. In fact, she joined the consulting firm about a year ago. Therefore, she have a pretty good idea of what need to be done. So we are fairly confident that this should get through the way we have it right now. There are a lot of data information available online, and you have that in your package. And if you're interested to find out more about it, you can go through those websites and get that information. So let me give a little idea about the smoothing criteria that we use. Now, remember, when FHW or the census gave us the data, they had certain criteria that they used, and they given us the census area boundary. But they're asking us to smooth the area boundary. Why it need to be smoothed? Because they're not local, they're up in Washington, D.C. or some other places. They don't have the local knowledge like what we have, what you all have, most importantly. Therefore, we have the opportunity to make the changes as we know what it is down here. Then again, the federal highway, the census boundary designation criteria that was used by the Census Bureau, that's not going to change. So that's why we have to be careful how we're going to be making the adjustment and send it back to them. If we were to make drastic changes, likely, we have to justify it, or not likely, we have to justify it. And it could be turned back and it come back to us. But this is some of the criteria that we had used in, or this been given to us in order for us to do the smoothing. The area must encompass the census urban area that's been given to us. We cannot shrink any more than what was given to us. We have to maintain the census designated boundary. We can expand it a little bit, but we cannot shrink it. Running through a few other guidelines that we had used in developing the smoothing. Municipalities cannot be broken into pieces. They all has to be an entire municipality should be included within the boundary. It should be urban characteristics. Now again, when it comes to subjective items, how one looks at it could be different from the others. although there are defined classification that the Census Bureau has given us, there are sometimes you can deviate a little bit from that. And that's what we have done in doing the smoothing. Boundary should not split roadways or ramps, and we did see quite a bit of that happen in the census data that they have given us. So we had adjusted the boundary so that it included the entire roadway right away, rather than the boundary going through a middle of a roadway. There's more of the guidelines that was given to us to touch on some of those. Boundary should be one contiguous area. You cannot have a boundary that's jagged, and you'll see there are smoothing that we have done that removed the jagged edges, and areas that are close to each other, they were combined. If the areas are too far from each other, and again, those are based on specific criteria that was given to us, that we cannot combine them. Okay, what they call jump, skip, and I don't know what the other term is, but there are a certain amount of distance that you can move from one urban area boundary to the other in order to combine them. All right, so finally, we are at the point of created a draft smooth urban area boundary. So this is what we have right now. What you see on the left is what the census gave us. What you have on the right is the smooth boundary. This doesn't have a pointer. So you can see a lot of the jagged areas were taken out. There are some expansion that you can see. And how can I get to the district for roadway atlas? Can you do that over there? So here you can, we have two slides that compares the census boundary that was given to us and the smooth boundary. And we took what FHWA guidelines that was given to us in creating the smoothing, and this is what we came up with. So at this point, let me open it up for any questions, comments that you may have so that we can wrap this up and send it to the central office. Good.
All right, while we get that pulled up, I did want to just offer a little bit more background here. So this is an item that we're bringing forward, motion for recommending approval. So we are required to adopt this urban area boundary. That's the first step in this process. You'll be making that recommendation. The board needs to adopt this draft urban area boundary at our next meeting. And then I want to also highlight for you, why is this important? So Raj has done an excellent job of explaining to you the process and how this outline, this boundary gets established, but funding is really divided into urban and rural when we look at it from a federal perspective. So it is really important for us to acknowledge that when we're looking at funding, our region is 99% of our population is in the urban area, 1% roughly is in our rural area. But we have a very large area that is rural. So it's important to make that distinction, because there's a difference in how those funds get allocated. So just one highlight. We can get that map pulled up if there are any specific questions, but we are here seeking recommendation to approve for this only action item today. Thanks.
Sure, thank you for presentation. Ruth, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. How about the committee members? Any comments, questions? Well, okay, go ahead, Alex.
Just to clarify, one of your slides mentioned that the boundary must include the entire municipality. It is my understanding from looking at the map that there's at least 3 municipalities that in which portions of the municipality are within the urban boundary and other portions are outside. West Palm Beach being one, I believe from my reading of the maps is correct, Palm Beach Gardens and Wellington too. I seem to recall reading somewhere in the packet that was provided that there could be some exceptions to that. Correct. I understand in the case of West Palm Beach, we are excluding Grassy Waters Preserve, which I completely agree with. I just want to make sure that it is clear that there's municipalities that have portions inside of the boundary and other portions outside.
Yeah,
Correct.
I believe you read it correctly, but I like to bring Tina McKinney. She's the person who did the the heavy lifting. And she will be able to give you some insight into what thought process went through in creating some of these bisection of local municipalities.
And I'm not questioning it. I just want to confirm because one slide mentioned that it had to be in the entire municipality. I just want to clarify that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Kim?
I understand today is just for the urban area boundary and that there's going to be a part 2 on the roadway classification.
Right.
But I wanted to put it on the record now that we have concerns about the classification when a 2-lane residential street in Palm Springs, it has the same classification as a 6-lane divided road in the unincorporated county. So we're going to be taking a closer look at that and looking to see that there's appropriate classifications for our local streets that are not part of the SIS or the county thoroughfare network.
Yeah, I mean, do you mean that if the road is on the TIM, it's all classified the same? They are not. They are not all the same, you know, depending on the right of way width. And so that determines the ultimate number of lanes and other things. So it's not the same as the roadway classification.
Right. But these are local streets that are not on the TIM. These are local streets. And so it's inappropriate for them to have a classification as an urban major collector.
I understand.
So when we get to the functional classification portion of this exercise, yes, we will be having extensive coordination with the local municipalities and the MPO, TPOs, and TPAs. I'm glad to hear there are comments we already have. We just don't want to stick to what we have right now. So we will be taking a look at any recommendation that the local municipalities like to make and look at the criteria that's we've been given by the Federal Highway Administration. What can be classified as, what roads can be classified as what, and we will let you know what we can do. Thank you.
Just also wanted to let everybody know, we pulled up the map in case anybody wants to take a look at it, but on the screen, what you see is the urban area boundary. I call it the yellow is the census area boundary. The blue is the smooth areas that have been incorporated by this modification process that we're here to present today. And then this is an interactive map, so you can zoom and look at different areas of the county to see what's been included in the designated urban boundary, and then that smooth area that's shown in blue. This was included in the agenda packet if anybody wants to play with that offline.
Can you quickly show the southern portion of the county?
All right. Do we have any more comments? All right, then do I have a motion to approve to recommend adoption of the adjusted urban area boundaries update?
Motion to recommend adoption.
Very good. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say
Aye.
nay. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Do we have any other comments on this item? Okay. And let's move into the informational item. Informational item 3A, I-95 managed lanes preliminary design and engineering, PD&E. I think if DOT will be presenting. Nathan?
Morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for the opportunity for us to come in and do a presentation for you to do a project kickoff meeting, project kickoff presentation for the two PD&E study for State Road 9 I-95. The two segment is I-95 from south of Lincoln Boulevard to all the way, the two segments together is from Lincoln Boulevard to Okeechobee Boulevard. And they're separated into a southern PD&E and a northern PD&E. My name is Hong Benitez, and I am the FDOT project manager for the southern segment that is from Lincoln Boulevard to north of 6th Avenue South. And then Vanita Sayani is the FDOT PM for the northern segment that is from the 6th Avenue South to Okeechobee Boulevard. And today we also are represented by our consultant that is for the southern one. It is Stantec. It's represented by Gabriel Perez. He is a PM, consultant PM. And then for the northern segment, for the northern segment, it is the PM is Julio Buclé, and then the consultant is AECOM. This presentation is going to be the same for the governing board of Palm Beach County TPA and also the subcommittees of TAC, CAC, and VSAC. So we're gonna do the same presentation for all of these committees and board. Oh, there it goes. This is slide number 2. And I'd like to give you a summary. The purpose of this presentation is really to introduce the two PD&E projects and then to inform the committee, the TPA, the FDOT's project delivery process. And then we want to introduce the project limits of the two PD&Es, and then to provide some project background. We want to explain why a PD&E study is needed, is necessary. And then we want to present it to you, the PD&E process. And that's going to include engineering, environmental, and public involvement. And towards the end, we're going to provide you the schedule and contact information. The delivery of FDOT the delivery of FDOT transportation project is usually a 6-phase process. The first phase is planning that was conducted as the I-95 Managed Lanes Master Plan, which preliminarily evaluated managed lane improvements and was completed in March of 2019. This planning study led to the PD&E studies, and that will be presented today. After PD&E, we're going to move on to design, right away acquisition if it is necessary, and construction, and ultimately the maintenance of the facility. And what are managed lanes? Before we get going into the project background, I would like to explain how we define a managed lane and what some of the benefits of managed lanes have. It's there. Later on, you can read in more detail, but I'm just going to read one paragraph. It says managed lanes are an innovative solution to congestion management. They are usually newly constructed travel lanes with access limited to specific vehicle classes by a toll or vehicle volume. Managed lanes are highway facilities or a set of lanes where operational strategies are proactively implemented and managed in response to changing traffic conditions. So what managed lane does is it will provide users an additional transportation choice. It will offer a more predicted travel time. And then also it will help to manage congestion, which in turn leads to fuel consumption, to less fuel consumption and air pollution. And also provide transit agencies with a potential new corridor. I-95 is designated as a strategic intermodal system facility, SIS facility in short, as well as a national highway system facility. It is also an emergency evacuation route. The I-95 Managed Lane Master Plan completed in 2019 looked at identifying long-term capacity needs along I-95 from Lincoln Boulevard to Martin County line. You can see from the map to the right side of the slide. It considered several managed lane concepts and ways to address segments operating below the acceptable levels of service for a SIS facility. This is the existing, the current I-95 typical section within the limit of the master plan. It features 2 HOV lanes, 1 in each direction, 8 general purpose lanes, 4 in each direction, and then 2 auxiliary lanes that's between most interchanges. And please note that HOV is a type of managed lanes already. And then this one is our proposed typical section at the completion of the master plan. And then, so what you can see is what the increase is, we made 2 managed lanes in each direction, so a total of 4. And then all the other lanes remain the same. And this typical section has moved forward into the PD&E phase. And then this is the time for this project. This would be the time for a more refined analysis of the master plan proposed concepts. Any improvement or changes of the proposed concept will happen during the PD&E. This one is a little bit difficult to read, but really you just need to look at the purple and the orange, 2 big blocks. And then these are actually after the coordination, we did our traffic analysis during the master plan phase. And then we have coordinated with agencies in order to establish preliminary managed lane access locations. So on this slides, you can see the blue arrows are the ingress locations into the managed lanes. And let's say red arrows are actually the egress of from the managed lane. And these are the preliminary locations. These locations will be reevaluated using our updated traffic information and coordinated with stakeholders, the elected officials, local agencies, and all affected municipalities during our PD&E study. And during the master plan phase, a robust coordination, including the many stakeholders. I'm not going to go down the list, had occurred. And we will be, during the PD&E phase, we will be reaching out once again to all the stakeholders within the study limits to ensure that we receive the feedbacks necessary to achieve project consensus and deliver deliver successful projects. The two PD&E studies that came out of the master plan are shown here. On the left side of the slide is what we refer to as the Southern PD&E study. And to the right is the Northern PD&E study. So the northern one, Southern one is from Lincoln Boulevard to just north of 6th Avenue South. And then the northern one is starting from 6th Avenue South to Okeechobee Boulevard. And then these studies will traverse these following cities, including Delray Beach, Boynton Beach, Lantana, Lake Worth Beach, Lake Clark Shores, Glen Ridge, Cloud Lake, and West Palm Beach. And then now we're going to go into more details in the PD&E process. And then here is Gabriel Perez.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, everybody. So Han previously mentioned the 6 phases that comprise the FDOT transportation project delivery process. The planning phase was completed. That was the master plan that she went over in 2019. As mentioned, we're currently in the PD&E phase, and PD&E is conducted to evaluate engineering alternatives, assess environmental impacts, and then make sure that we comply with all federal and state laws and regulations, and also secure funding sources. During the planning and through agency coordination, the objectives of the project were established. Those are to increase capacity to meet the future traffic demand, assess operational and safety needs, enhance connectivity, and we'll also be coordinating with the different agencies, the airport, Tri-Rail, to ensure multimodal, that we're not impacting adversely the multimodal relationships. So to go over a little bit about what PD&E is, sorry, excuse me. PD&E study will start with data collection. That's the phase that we're currently in, and near completion, working towards the concept alternatives evaluation. After that, we look at a more in-depth engineering and environmental analysis, then the alternatives refinement, and then we complete the engineering and environmental documents. Throughout the life of a PD&E study, you will have continuous public involvement. It's one of the reasons why we're here today, and we'll be meeting regularly with the public. We have an alternatives public workshop. That's one of the milestones. That's where we present the alternatives, all alternatives under consideration, as well as the impacts. And then we go back to the public for a public hearing where we present the recommended alternative, and it's the, one of the final opportunities for the public to provide input on the project. So from an engineering standpoint, we're going to be looking at roadway geometry, ways to address the capacity, safety, and operational concerns of the project. Obviously, we're going to be adding a little bit of impervious. We'll be looking at drainage, structural analysis, and evaluating the ingress and egress locations throughout the managed lane system. We're going to be looking at right-of-way requirements. We want to minimize any right-of-way impacts, so we'll be evaluating that. And then a big component is looking at the preservation of existing resources throughout the project to lower the costs. The environmental analysis looks at both the natural and the social environment. We'll be looking at ways to avoid, minimize, and mitigate all environmental impacts. One of the big concerns with the public we always hear is noise, and we're going to be doing a noise evaluation. There's some existing noise was out there, but they'll be reassessed to ensure that the impacts to the public are reduced. Public involvement is one of the major components of a PD&E study. It starts really at the planning phase and goes all the way through PD&E design construction. During the PD&E, we will be going to the public, as previously mentioned. We're going to be holding both virtual and in-person meetings. There'll be that alternative workshop as well as the public hearing. We're also putting together a project website. It's not ready yet, but it should launch soon. And that'll be a platform where the public can go on to check out the latest project documents, provide project input, and so on. We'll be meeting with the agencies, other stakeholders, federal as well as local, Parks and Rec, different associations, and so on. This here you see the southern PD&E limits that Hong previously described. The project is beginning at Linton Boulevard, where the Phase 3B Managed Lanes project is ending today. And it'll be going to north of 6th. Within these limits, we have 4 municipalities, and we also have 6 interchanges. Most of the interchanges are under some phase of a project, whether it's design or construction. We're going to be working with those to minimize any impacts. We're not going to be looking at modifying any of the interchanges within these limits. We also have the South Florida Rail Corridor, which runs parallel along the west side of the facility. Continuing on from the termination of the southern PD&E at 6th is the northern PD&E. This project traverses 5 municipalities, has 6 interchanges, and then you see the 2 red circles at Southern Boulevard and Belvedere. Those 2 interchanges are going to be evaluated during this PD&E. So we'll be looking at different alternatives and different concepts. And then this project terminates just north of Okeechobee Boulevard. The 2 projects are running concurrently, is why we're presenting both projects today. The plan is to run them concurrently, but keep in mind they are 2 independent projects and the schedule is subject to change. So there could be some deviation throughout the life of these projects. We began the studies in the spring of 2023. Today, we're here for the project kickoffs. We're going to be sending soon after these presentations to the public, some fact sheets providing that information, kind of letting them know that this project has commenced and, provide some of the feedback on that. The alternatives workshop, which I mentioned earlier, is scheduled for 2024, the summer of 2024, and that will be followed by a public hearing where we present that final concept in the spring of 2025. The studies are anticipated for completion in fall of 2025. Both projects, the Southern and the Northern PD&E, are funded for design in the year 2027. However, they're not funded yet for construction. And then the State Road 80 interchange improvements that I mentioned earlier, those are funded for 2026 for design, but not funded yet for construction.
These 2 projects are going to have different contexts, as you can see from the slides. I am the project manager for the southern segment. So my contact information is provided here. And then for the northern PD&E study, Lanita Saini is the project manager. And then we have a separate team working on that project. This is pretty much all what we are going to discuss as far as project. And since FDOT, we do always leave a safety message for everybody. And since the holiday season is here, and then we would like to remind everyone that please do not drive under influence to keep everybody safe. And again, what we did today was a really high-level overview of the PD&E study that is currently ongoing from Linton Boulevard to Okeechobee. And I would like to thank you personally, and we would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity. And if you do have any questions, we're going to do our best to address.
Very good. Thank you for the presentation. Again, this is an informational item. Staff, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rashid.
Rashid Mahid in the Planning Division, Palm Beach County. My question is that there used to be a study which started about 10 years ago for Southern Boulevard throughout the county. and had the I-95 interchange in there, how would this affect that study, and how would it be accounted for? I've seen a couple of plans for that interchange at that time. I think that study is on hold for a long time. I just curious, how would that be all interacted?
Thank you for the question. My name is Julio Bucle. I'm the PM for the northern segment on the Vaneta Saini. And that's a very good question. Yes, we're taking into account the results of the Southern Boulevard PDN action plan. And we will be looking into the recommendations that were made at that time and refine together with what we got as a result of the master plan. The interchange at this point really is one of the main points I'm focusing on the of the project on the northern segment, because we will provide direct connection ramps from I-95 to Southern Boulevard. Connections that don't really exist today the way we wanted to, to implement it as part of the managed lanes. So that, it continues on. It is a separate project for design as a whole, no? The interchange, because it's a massive project, if you will. But the results really will be the recommendation coming out of this PDN story. Okay.
Thank you.
And we'll be back at this, we'll be back to the board, and we'll be back to the subcommittees during the course of the study. As you saw on the schedule, this is a 2-year process, more than 2 years in reality. And so at different stages, we'll be back. There is I know there is, we coordinated with some of you at the master plan level that was completed back in March of 2019. If I can take a second to talk about that. And that was pre-COVID. Now, post-COVID, a few things have changed, throughout. So we have additional information. We are also getting, more ammunition, really, to get into the PDI phase. If I can give you an analogy, at the planning level, you look down from 1,000 feet. At PDI, you go down to 100 feet. Design, you go at ground level. So there's much more information coming in for this phase of the project. For example, we'll have a full design survey, something we didn't have at the time. And, everything becomes more tied down, more accurate, if you will. Okay,
Okay, thank you. Jason? Thank you for the presentation. My question is regarding the change in 2 lanes to 1 lane back to 2 lanes as it relates to a congested area being near West Palm Beach, and also the figure you showed with the heat map of the crash data being pretty high in that area. So if you could shed some light on that.
I think that went back to 1 lane is where those 2 interchanges, for the northern segment. For the northern segment, and then one of the lanes are actually going to be the ramp. The connecting ramp that goes to Belvedere and Southern Boulevard. Go.
I mean, look, going back to the master plan, you'll see a lane that disappears and reappears again. That's a direct connect. It goes off and comes back on. So in reality, when you look at the typical sections, it's a typical throughout the 38 miles at the time. The master plan was on for the 38-mile corridor south of Lincoln all the way to the county line. Okay, so typically it's 2 lanes. That's what it is all throughout. That's a connecting point. And I do remember that we have some issues on the north of Southern Boulevard with some right-of-way constraint that existed because of all the bridges, all the ramps in and out. That was very costly to take down one of those ramps and redo it again. So, but we didn't have, like I said, we didn't have a survey at the time. Now we're gonna have it. So we're gonna revisit all those, details and see what can be improved at the time.
Good. All right, Alex?
At 1 sentence, once again, it is not final. So we're still doing the analysis and then we're gonna see what can be done.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, a few comments, and actually Jason touched on one of my comments. Being representative from West Palm Beach, I'm quite concerned about the fact that the northern project, the limits are, again, the section of I-95 between Okeechobee Boulevard and Palm Beach Lakes. That area is already very dangerous, as one of your slides, which Jason referred to, slide 14, you had that heat map showing crash data. The hottest portion of I-95 in Palm Beach County is the section between Palm Beach Lakes and Okeechobee Boulevard. To have that as the terminus of the project, I think is just going to exacerbate the problem. Also, that area is going to be under construction, significant construction for a while. For this phase of the project, your own master plan is showing that then there's going to be another phase that is going to start in that same section between Okeechobee and Palm Beach Lakes, and then it's going to head north. It's not part of this, but that is going to, so that section is going to be under construction twice. We're talking many, many years. So again, this is an area that is quite dangerous right now, as the crash data is showing. So my one first thought would be that the limits of that northern section of the project should be moved. And so it shouldn't be right in between Okeechobee and Palm Beach Lakes, which, by the way, are two intersections that are very close to each other. That is part of the danger. There's a lot of people going in and out of I-95. So that would be a comment that, again, the limits of the northern section should be reassessed. I think it's a concern for West Palm Beach, and I think it should be a concern for everybody because of the crash situation, and also the fact that it'll be under construction for a long period of time. You mentioned early on the benefits of managed lanes. Philosophically, I don't disagree that it could be benefits with managed lanes. Concern that I have, which I've expressed before, but I want to express it again, and we do not, in many other states, manage the funds that are collected from the managed lanes go to provide alternatives for those who cannot afford to pay for the use of the managed lanes. So I was here when FDOT staff did the presentation about the master plan, and there were examples from Virginia, from many other states that have managed lanes. And when you actually go to the website of those states, there's examples of how the revenues that they are collecting are being used to enhance transit options, are being used to enhance multimodal facilities, again, to provide alternatives for those who cannot afford those managed lanes. Is any of that incorporated into this? I think I already know the answer, but again, I just want to express my concern that while we mentioned the potential benefits to transit of managed lanes, that would be the case if additional transit funding were to be provided in addition to the provision of the managed lanes, again, to provide alternatives for parallel routes. I don't think that's the case here. My final comment has to do with the two interchange projects that are now kind of under this umbrella of this PD&E. Those are substantial projects. They're both in West Palm Beach too, at Southern Boulevard and Belvedere. I do think those two should be separate projects. They should not be under this umbrella of this large project. They're substantial. From a public involvement standpoint, if people just find out about meetings on managed lanes, some of those people may not be going to the meetings to provide input. If they understand that this is about the Southern Boulevard interchange or about the Belvedere Boulevard I-95 interchange, I think the response will be quite different. Those are, again, significant projects. Southern Boulevard, there was a previous PD&E. That whole thing was scrapped because of concerns by the FAA. Now we're going back, and this is now included under this umbrella of managed lanes. I understand that there has to be coordination between these two interchange projects and the managed lanes projects. I understand that. At the same time, they should be separate projects. They should not just be lumped all together because they're all quite significant, and the issues and the public involvement should be done completely separately. They should not be lumped together.
Okay, thank you. Alex, do you have an answer to that or comments?
I am going to try to answer your question. one thing, the first one that you're talking about, the safety. The safety, actually, it is one of the major item that we are going to be analyzing in this PDNE. And then it is where the goal of the PDNE actually is to remediate or correct the safety concern. So it is a little too early to go too much detail because we're not there at this point. The second one that you were talking about, the project, the interchange projects. The transit, you're talking about the tolling, the possible tolling. Actually, at this point, or at least when I first took over the project, actually, you're going to see, I imagine all managed lanes are coordinated with the turnpike. So we all have toll facilities on it. However, whether it is tolled or not, that is to be decided. So at this point, we do not, I mean, there are some express lanes that or managed express lanes or managed lanes that is not really tolled. But what it is that because that you change the way that traffic, or there are going to be people that choose for the people that travel longer, it has a lot of advantage to go into the managed lane. So then you're going to reduce the general use lane. Then in that sense, that's the improvement that the managed lane can bring, one of them. Transit is one because what it is, if all the managed lanes are allowed to have buses on. The buses on can, because no trucks as managed lane, no trucks allowed, no, but buses, school buses, that's where the transit alternative, they can use that. I know that's one of those things that they're currently working on in Miami-Dade County, that they have some managed lanes. And then it's, you have to have you really have to have a system for it to work.
County, so it would be.
Maybe we'll get there.
Right, but the question really was, if there's going to be tolling, can that money go into projects that are involved with transit or multimodal? That is really, we'd like the answer to that question.
That I do not know.
Can that be brought back to FDOT as a policy thing?
Yeah,
And that can possibly.
bring it.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll. Okay, thank you. We'll go to Naresh, and after that, we'll go to CJ, and after CJ, we'll get to Kim.
Alex already touched my
Before you go to
comment.
Naresh, just
Okay.
because I saw your face of surprise when Hans said that sometimes the managed lanes are not tolled. That is correct. If you look down in the 826 Palmetto Expressway, Miami-Dade County, it is not being tolled, and the managed lanes were implemented. So it happens. It may or may not be tolled. That's a decision to be made. I-95 it is tolled so far, but that is a case that I can point out to you. And in regards to the size of the project for the interchanges themselves, you're right, it's a massive project. So my answer to that would be together but separate. At this point, we have to analyze how I-95 and State Roads, Southern Boulevard, State Road 80 will interact together. We're going to refine that. It also depends, solutions would also depend on the airport. The airport has a diagonal runway that may or may not disappear, depending on what happens to the diagonal runway, which is in the master plan of the airport. Also will affect the solution that will be recommended for Southern Boulevard. And as far as the Okeechobee Boulevard interchange, it'd be more like ramp improvements. It would not be remake of the interchange. Right? It'd be a lot simpler than what you will see on Southern Boulevard. Naresh.
Mine is a more a suggestion. To the extent scope allows, I would encourage the PD&D team to coordinate and look at the potential strategic park and ride and express bus options, coordinate with Palm Tran early in the process where we can use this as an opportunity to look at the multimodal and TSM and alternatives into the evaluation and how those can also improve, take care of the congestion. Obviously, that express lanes will address some portion of the congestion, but at least having the reliable bus transit system expanding and providing more options similar to what Miami-Dade is doing. And even 595 Broward Park and Ride express bus from there to downtown. I think in combination with that and Tri-Rail connecting to downtown, I think we have a huge potential to unlock multimodal options with this project. So I just the team to involve Palm Tran as you finalize the ingress and egress points and those options so that they can also plan their projects to see what's the need and what are some of the potential express bus lane options to provide that county to county connection and also inter-county connection.
Yeah, besides coming back to this forum, at large, as we are here today, the teams will be going into the individual municipalities, like we did in the past with the master plan. Because your concerns might not be the same concerns, and as well as municipalities. So we'll be coordinating with everybody individually, the ones that are affected, and then the forums, the subcommittees, and the boards. Yeah.
Thank you. CJ, you are still online.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to address one of the concern I have towards the managed land. Given the limited right of way, I can see some of the segment. It was actually converting from the existing right of way to managed land, and some of the section, yes, where the right of way is available, you can add the management to it. So if it is within the existing right of way, and we try to convert existing right of way to the managed land, then the managed land to me, it kind of like a two-edged sword. It's yeah, I guess many people heard about the empty land syndrome, that you can see the managed land, the HOV land is either too empty or too crowded. So if you're converting from existing land to the managed land, it's taking away the capacity from the existing number of the land, and then of course it was give some benefit of promoting other mode of transportation, the higher occupancy vehicle to utilize the imagined land, but it also take away the existing capacity to serve the regular traffic. So during the PD&E, I just wish that you should specifically look into that fundamental capacity issue there. And the other one is the safety concern, where some segment you do have the sufficient right of way to accommodate additional land for managed land. Some of them you just don't. So I can see by traveling down south this past weekend, I can see some of the segment because of the very right of way. You have the land merge into one land, and then suddenly it come up back to the two lanes. So that in that merge point, the merging the show, it does create some kind of congestion, and the vehicle travel at the high speed merging into it, it does create some kind of safety concern there. So I wanted the FDOT specific to look into that non-uniform segment and the issue created by injecting that the non-uniform the language due to that the right-of-way situations. Thanks.
I just want to mention that, in our proposed typical section, we did not reduce the general use lanes. It remains the same. Right now, that's 4 lanes in each direction. With our adding, making the managed lane to 2 lanes, we still maintain 4 lanes in each direction. So that traffic, we did not, that one was not impacted. there's still 4 lanes in each direction. But as far as you were talking about the merge, I think usually it comes with interchanges. So the auxiliary lanes are still there, but we will be looking at, looking for some alternate, not to say alternative, some solutions to see if we can reduce the conflicts. That's part of our PD&E study. We will be looking into it.
One.
Something. The existing HOV lane, is a managed lane of some sort. It is managed. So like Hung is saying, the general use lane, four lanes in each direction will remain as is. That doesn't really, there's no reduction of that, and the auxiliary lanes going in and out between interchanges. Now, the right of way, it varies widely, from about 265 feet to, I think, about 615 feet throughout the 38 miles. Talking about, master plan, past memory. So we try to minimize any right of way acquisition. And if we can't, we'll work through that. But the objective is, to maintain the existing service and capacity of the facility, and at the same time, minimize at all costs or avoid, in this case, any right of way acquisition.
Okay, thank you. Kim?
Hi there. Thanks for the presentation. 2 points. One, I wanted to echo the concerns that Alex raised with respect to project limits. In my southbound travels, the network really starts to break down south of 45th Street because the inbound traffic into West Palm Beach really starts to build now at Palm Beach Lakes. So it is never a great outcome for the project limits to be a point of conversation at this point in the game. But from a practical standpoint and from a safety standpoint, I think the project limits, if we are able, should at least be considered where the northern terminus would be north of Palm Beach Lakes. So that's comment number 1. And comment number 2 is with respect to the equitable use of dollars generated from managed lanes. I don't think there's a scenario at this point going forward where we can pretend that managed lanes won't equate into revenue for the state or the feds and whomever. And that's fine. That's kind of like the equation we're in now. But there is an equity implication. We have one level of megaphone as a TPA. The larger and more effective megaphone is SEFTEC, the 3 counties together. The equitable use of dollars generated from managed lanes with respect to transit and transit opportunities is a long-standing policy issue. And I'd suggest to the TPA that, we continue to raise that as we work through the RTP, the Regional Transportation Plan for the 3 counties, and emphasize that voice collectively from the 3 southern counties that are really impacted. We have a tough time moving people around, and we will see express bus that's going to use those lanes that are going to take people from West Palm down into Miami. The revenues that continue to come in need to fund those kinds of services from a policy standpoint. So we would make those 2 observations. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. Do you have any answer to that or comment?
Your second comment, we're going to bring it back because that is more of a policy comment. So we will bring it back to, as far as project limit, there is actually another segment of PD&E. It connects to the northern one. So that one goes from there all the way to the county line, except for now it is not funded. Sure. So it is not that we're not looking at it. And then the construction of the -2 segment, the one that in West Palm Beach, that is the one that, one is just north of the Okeechobee. I think it will be kind of like a connecting to it. And then the third one will come in at some point.
Sure. And I appreciate that clarification. We will ultimately likely see managed lanes through the entire corridor.
Yes.
Through the Treasure Coast and beyond. And so our job as a technical committee is to give guidance as we see it, and we drive the network all the time. And so again, though the project limits are defined now where we have a break point at Okeechobee, the suggestion, I think, at least from a couple of members, is that it doesn't work that way for us as the traveling public.
We will bring it back also. We can ask that question, but you know, what I just want to mention, what I wanted to mention is there is actually the third PD&E.
Completely understand.
So
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you for these comments. Actually, I appreciate you guys coming out and sharing this information with us. And I understand that you're taking back the input and the comments that you hear from members of the committee and the public here. Yeah.
Just sorry, a point of question.
Yeah, we are not done, but Jim.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
If it's related to what they're talking about, Alex, I'm okay with him.
We were just having a kind of a sidebar conversation as to where it would be possible for this board, and I understand this is a discussion item, to provide, I guess, a motion or a recommendation to the TPA board for them to officially request a reevaluation of the limits of the project, consistent with what we have been discussing, at least to indicate that this is something that this committee thinks should be at least relooked at more in detail, so that the board is aware of this committee's.
Certainly, we can
Sure,
make
about this.
motion. Absolutely, I don't see why not. But
So
do you wanna? Go ahead.
yeah, I will make a motion that the committee provide or indicate to the board that we have some concerns about the limits of the northern section of the project, and that we believe that they should be moved, ideally north of Palm Beach Lakes, somewhere between Palm Beach Lakes or 45th, but at least that they should be relooked at because of both safety and operational concerns.
45th was also congested, right? So you probably want to go even north of 45th to include 45th.
Again, even from a crash standpoint, the worst segment is between Palm Beach Lakes and
But
Okeechobee.
it's,
So
well, yeah, okay. So, yeah, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments on this motion before we vote? All right, no comments on this motion. Okay, so I think it's better that we finish the discussions before we vote on this motion.
right.
Yeah. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? No nays? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
I'm sorry,
And you want the motion to be read again, or you got it?
did we receive a second?
Yeah, we had, yeah, Kim seconded it, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, with this, let's move on, Jim.
Yes, I was just wondering if the, excuse me, if the PD&E study will also be looking at crash data from the stretch now that's from Boca to Dade County, which has the 4 merge lanes. Because I've had the opportunity, or not the opportunity, to drive to Boca quite frequently from to the Dade, right around the Dade County line, and I've seen a lot of instances where disabled or crashed vehicles, there's really no pull-off lane or any place for them to move over in these areas, and it's really caused a bottleneck, and it's really kind of been a real extreme congestion. If there's been an accident in some of these areas, especially some also where the merge lanes are, where the mergings are happening, but also just in some areas where there's just no pull-off lanes. It wasn't designed in that situation. So I was just wondering if you're going to look at that, because I think the same situation could exacerbate what we're talking about with West Palm Beach. Same kind of thing. If there are points where there's no pull-off lane or there's merging situations, we're going to just make the situation a lot worse. So I'd like to know if the study will incorporate looking at what's happening now and those stretches.
I do not have the exact information, but I do know the PD&E study, if it is not ongoing or it has been done for that segment. That's why our segment starts from Linton. So south of Linton, there has been a study, and it I will have to get back with you with precise information because I somehow feel that, because this is the entire corridor goes from Broward County all the way up. So that might be part of something that connects to the Broward.
Well, I mean, kind of what I'm getting at is it seems in a lot of ways, one lane for each direction rather than two lanes for each direction would be better in longer stretches than having the merges.
Yeah, I believe.
But it seems like your recommendation is that you want to have, it be 4 lanes in all, total in all the entire length of the stretch with exceptions again for merging, but for large expanses. And I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to go.
Can you, I didn't quite get what you're saying. You're a 4.
What I'm saying is I think there's some instances where it should be one northbound and one southbound of a merge lane in some stretches rather than having 2 for each north and 2 for south. Just because of these situations, the design of the road, it seems like there's no area for pull-off lanes. And so then when there's an accident, it's a real problem.
I can. Do you know that project? South of there?
I'm not familiar with the project just to the south. I don't know if Julio wants to chime in, but the issue with providing one managed lane with a buffer with tubular delineators is that you'll get exactly the issue that you're saying that you're seeing down to the south. The pull-off lanes, meaning shoulders, in general, we will provide standard shoulders. Where we cannot provide standard shoulders, we do a safety analysis to see what the impacts of that reduced shoulder might be, where it could impede the ability of vehicles to recover should they pull off. But in the case of just having one single managed lane, even with a shoulder, what happens is you just got that one lane providing the operations, and you can't get a vehicle that blocks that lane anyway. So in that case, yeah, it would create a bigger bottleneck than if you have 2 lanes where at least one vehicle could get around. Is that what you're concerned with?
That's not really what's happening. And maybe because the way it was designed, there was no shoulder opportunity at all. I mean, there are some large stretches on the stretch to Dade County that there is essentially no shoulder.
There's a lot of areas down south that don't have shoulder. That's without a doubt. In our case, we'll be looking at wherever we got to minimize it, we'll try to keep it to just pinch points, but that'll be part of the evaluation as well.
And I said, we're going to have to take in consideration, is this going to be in situations where the merging lanes are coming up? Are they in places where there's already high crash instances already in West Palm Beach? I'm trying not to create the same problem that I'm seeing in Dade County and happening on the directions going to West Palm Beach.
Your concern is part of the analysis, and it will carry through, the entire process. In the, the number of managed lanes depends on the traffic volumes and the projections, and that's how it is determined. It is now 1 versus 2 versus 3 in each direction. Traffic will determine how many lanes do you really need to make it operational for the intended purposes. In the case of Dade County, is a good point. That was the pilot project, the first one on the managed lanes network, and they didn't have the right of way. That's why the general use lanes in Dade County are not even 12 foot wide; they are 11 foot wide, and they don't have shoulders. The shoulders are minimum, and they come in and out. I think maximum you get in some segments 4 feet of the inside shoulder, which, like you're saying, not enough to pull anybody. So it becomes a mess whenever there is an accident. So yeah, it is point well taken, recognized, and I don't believe we're going to have that issue here because the right of way, like I said, it varies from 265 to about 600 feet or 615 feet throughout. So I don't believe we're going to be facing that issue for this segment. And if we do face it, we'll have to look for solutions. Yeah, point well taken.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the PD needs that are ongoing now and then the schedule. The team had mentioned that there would be design coming afterward. So it's good that the 3 PD&Es, there's 2 now, and then I guess the one further north. But as we move through the process and it moves into future phases, there's typically opportunities to, a lot of times the full limits for the PD&E, we can't afford to do that in design. So then it's broken down further in design. So I'm thinking that as these projects move forward, there's probably opportunities to break the design into portions that make sense for both design and construction. You know, design might be the full limit, but we might not be able to afford construction. So then there'll be opportunities to decide what portion should be built as it marches forward. So that might help the discussion on, you know, limits and what makes sense for safety.
Thank you. That's great clarification. I see Vicky has more comments.
It strikes me that a lot of these comments are important for the individual locations where they're being cited, and the comments are substantial. I'm wondering, should they be submitted in writing and to have a more formal record of it, so that people can then, as the PD&E moves forward, you know, be able to track responses to these questions.
Well, do you have any answer to that? Do you care for that, or you are taking already notes of all the comments that we have
I
made
am
here?
sure all these things are recorded, and then I
Yeah, I
know
think it's recorded, right? So you can go back to the recordings.
we're taking notes.
That's a good point. Thank you. Any other comments? Very good. Thank you for the long Q&A, but great presentation. I appreciate you coming. Let's move on to the next item, the federal listing of obligated projects for 2023. Andrew, I think, is going to be presenting for us on this item.
Good morning, everyone. This is a short presentation to discuss the fiscal year 2023 annual listing of obligated projects. So this is the federal funding that was obligated towards projects in the prior fiscal year, right? So this fiscal year closed out. We're now operating in fiscal year 2024. And then this is a required report that is ran for all the metropolitan planning organizations in the federal at the federal level. And it's provided by AFDOT, and that's what was provided in your backup. We summarize the findings from that report, our TPA staff does. And what you'll find in the report is what was programmed in fiscal year 23 for our transportation improvement program. And so that is the intent to spend funds from specific sources on projects. And then you'll also see in that summary the obligation. So what was obligated and spent down. And then there's also funding that may be de-obligated. So that might be removed based on project costs, delays, or cancellations. And so the amount of funds we're talking about in the scheme of things for overall is really just the federal funds, $112 million that are in 2023. So it's that most recent year that we were operating under. It makes up roughly at the state level, federal funds are about 25% of the total transportation budget for the state. So we're only discussing that 112, not the state and local funding. And so in the summary table, what you'll find is there'll be differences between what was programmed in fiscal year 23 and then what was actually drawn down, spent. And so there may be a few reasons for that. Sometimes you'll see a larger number that was actually totally obligated versus what was programmed. And you may see products that there's a lot more funding program, but never obligated. So some of the main reasons that might happen, one might be that product phases may not have been completed and they might have moved to the current fiscal year. So if products have been delayed or they never really started up, they might be then shifted to fiscal year 2024. So you'll see a program in the tip and then the product was moved. Next is sometimes AFDOT is swapping some state and federal funds within projects. It is a big work program that they're trying to balance. And sometimes funds become available in different pockets and there's different eligibilities. So you'll sometimes see swaps between state and federal funds. Unfortunately, we only really receive the federal obligations report. So trying to marry that with state funding can be a difficult task to show in a clear way. But that is sometimes the case, is that there's a swap of federal and state funds. And then another bigger one that happens, and this happens pretty frequently now, is that the state of Florida has what's called this advanced construction program. And so what they're doing is they're ensuring that products are federally aid eligible, and they're still going through that process and they're eligible for that federal aid, but they use state funds to program and spend down on that project. And then when the more federal aid becomes available, possibly from other states who didn't spend their money, they'll start pulling that money in and then they'll reimburse themselves. And so what you might see is that some major projects will be obligated in fiscal year 2023. For example, the National Highway Performance Program, that might be obligated in fiscal year 2023, but that product was actually back in a tip maybe 2 years ago with state funds, right? And so that's just them drawing those funds down from federal government and then reimbursing themselves and then refilling that advanced construction pot. So it's been a way for AFDOT to get in more revenues from the federal government. That one's not going to be something that you can see well on this report, right? Because we're only showing the fiscal year 2023 funds. Hopefully in the future, we're requesting some more of a longer term outlook so you can sort of see all these transactions that are happening over different years. So this is what we have in summary for the tip and then the obligated amounts and the differences. These are based on our tip section. So the first one being treated interval system capacity, and then going in order of our tip, and then shows programmed, obligated, the difference, a negative or positive, and then if there's any funds that were de-obligated from a project. That's all I really have for you. If there's any specifics on products, you want to know what happened with that, I can research more on that and get you the answer. But if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Or no? Okay. How about committee members? Seems you are guys ready to go home, right? All right. So let's move on to administrative items. Items 4A through 4E are informational only. There will be no staff presentation unless requested by committee member. Staff, are there any public comments on this item? No? About, okay. So our next stack meeting, this meeting will be, sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, unrelated to the items on the agenda, but I just wanted to let everybody know we had an LRTP workshop. In the back of the room, we have boards. I meant to mention that earlier during the liaison report. But going through our goals and objectives and some other items that we're presenting as we approach the needs plan and discussions of putting together the cost feasible plan that will occur early next year. So if anybody has questions and wants to chat about anything I mentioned during the liaison report or to look at those materials, please feel free to stop by and say hello in the back of the room before you leave today. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Nathan. All right. Our next TAC meeting is scheduled for February 7th, 2024. At this time, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.